Hi everyone, it's Laura Morgan with MorganHR, and today's podcast is number 5. I think I'm going to call this one Identity Crisis, almost recession, to be or not to be. I started this week with looking at my chief exec mags, my CHRO, LinkedIn, key articles, top highlights, and what I'm seeing is inflation, no surprise. An article by Ram Charan, he's coming back into the chief exec world, how to survive a recession, learn how to lead through inflation. He goes through his 5 priorities, which are not surprising for Ram. He's always centered on these areas, but you should invest in CapEx, OpEx in order to preserve, not destroy your future. It's crucial to digitalize your business. If you don't digitize, you'll die, is pretty frank. Also identify and remove any obstacles. It's worthwhile to target innovation if your consumer is willing to spend more for it. And finally, don't neglect the maintenance. So if you have a need to fix something, he recommends that you go fix it. So I kind of look at that from a comp takeaway as well. Comp adjustments for your team make sense. Use technology to help you. Remove the waste and friction of the process and fill your talent pool with a customer focus. So when you're actually challenged as a comp role to find talent and the TA folks are coming to you saying they're having difficulty, make sure it's worth going at or above market for that individual. Don't just sling the dollars out. I'd make sure that it was really with a purposeful thought. But I also say don't cut too many quarters just to shave. I also say that just because you can get a talent lower doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right way to go at that. Be smart. There's another article. This one was kind of fun with Jim Collins, the Good to Great fellow that wrote that book. A few more as well. He's like learning from the past, how to thrive in chaos. This was an old one. I remember reading this, but he brought it back. He talks about the Amundsen and Scott expedition to the South Pole back in 1911. He brings out the learning and leading behaviors between the two, where Amundsen got through the whole adventure, but he was really planful. He really, even good weather, bad weather, it didn't matter. He always executed his plan, where Scott didn't really have a plan. He let the weather dictate what was his approach, and unfortunately, Scott and his team did not survive. So the takeaway there, I say just don't react to comp challenges. We have a plan. At least comp does create a plan and a strategy. I'd audit it along the way. Check with your fiscal updates. Make sure if the plan or the incentive is doing what it should be doing and the accruals align appropriately. Monitor it. Make sure it's going in the right direction. If not, be prepared to pivot. But don't pivot just to pivot. Make sure you thought through all the outcomes and model those out appropriately. Last one, there was an article about filling the gaps. CEOs are getting on the top 3 articles, one about outsourcing. In this one article by Trey Campbell, though, there was a nice takeaway, something that's not really highlighted on the chief mags that I see, but it was really centering on benefits. They had a tidbit about more companies are now offering mental health benefits, earned wage access, and other perks outside of the normal benefits like health insurance and 401k, which most of us should have, and we do. But according to the survey, 73% of the Gen Z, the millennials, actually say benefits is the number one reason they would stay with an employer. I thought that was a nice little tidbit inside that article, so if you get a chance to read it, you'll get more insights. But it does go along with our benefit study that we had in 2022. You should have the basics. You should have the core benefits. And if you don't have a 401k match, that is probably the largest opportunity that I could recommend that you go get. Instead of going after the divvy bikes and the cafeteria foods and the massage chairs, go after your 401k. But beyond that, the one that really is becoming, at least for the lower wage earners, the earned wage access. I am seeing that coming about with technology that people can actually get paid through the day. And that goes along with what's on the CHRO mags. I saw a lot about outsourcing in that one as well. So we're getting ready. It's funny about the CHRO mags, it just led with a contradictory environmental factor. So the stocks are down, job opportunity is high and available. Everybody, I think there's 2 or 3 jobs per person. But there's the fear about the Fed Reserve rates to be raised further. And then, of course, the layoffs out there. So there's some guidance out there that they're saying because of all this chaos and is there a recession, is there not recession? I'm not a financial person, but it sure feels like one. But what they're highlighting is at the end of the day, with all this chaos, even what we saw in this chief exec mags, good employees have options. And we all need to be really thoughtful, and CHROs agree that we must compensate them because of that. The other thing is that when companies are faced with increasing pay, but then when we do that, we have to increase the price of our products. The only solution to that, if customers don't purchase it at that price, will be layoff. So we have to be very careful about raising rates just to raise rates. I know you're seeing a lot of it. I know that there's a lot of article and push that people's take-home pay isn't commensurate with the inflation. That's okay, because even when inflation is low, you don't want to necessarily have your salaries aligned to inflation even at those times. You want to use that as an input into your discussion. You look at affordability, you look at your benefits, you look at your flexibility, you look at the actual full access to development. And managers that have 1 to 3, there's more time for that individual to get direct access to a manager. But when their manager is 1 to 10, I've seen somebody with 1 to 36. So a span of control of 1 supervisor to 36 people. How much individual connection does that employee have with that manager? But if you have a right size org structure, that can really help you and it'd be an advantage to promote that you actually almost have principal ratio. Remember we used to say in school, 1 to 22, 1 to 48. For every teacher, there were 48 students. Same benefit that employees should also have. Hey, you're going to have a manager and you're going to learn and you're going to have access to their respective mentorship. And what kind of manager are they? They've been in the business. Promote a lot of the talent that supports your talent. And I think that would be helpful. Something that was interesting when they brought about the worker shortage, some tidbits that we all probably haven't really dug deep. I haven't heard much about it, but the new generation is called Gen Alpha. So the Gen Alpha are those that never were disconnected. They grew up with an iPad. So this new generation, Forbes had this article that augmented what I saw in the CHRO stuff, that the Generation Alpha will be the largest generation by 2025. So it's grown up primarily exposed to digital mediums such as smartphones, tablets, and computers. So if you think about that, we need to make sure that our communication strategies are really available so that these individual employees can actually see maybe their career growth on an app, see their pay growth in their history, see where it could go on a trajectory. Have that be modeled out as an app on that one app that they open, not necessarily data dashboard overload. I think we have to create an environment for our new generations to have access to download to their phone of what they want to watch. So I'd be careful. So I'm news for you guys. We are starting this HR Tech Thursday at MorganHR. We're going to be reviewing all the technology out in the marketplace from an HR perspective and adding what we feel will be helpful for our clients as well as what we would like to bring in-house as well, and maybe to augment our Simply Merit software. So pay attention to that. I thought that was quite interesting. The other thing that was another point, who knew this? Immigration. Did you know that our population growth, according to the CBO, is generally projected to slow from 2023, this year, to 2053, an average of only 0.3% per year. That's not one person replaced the two. So what they're saying is that the only growth that we see, the Congressional Budget Office says they project by 2042, net immigration will be the nation's only source of population growth. So what does that mean for us? I feel that we need to keep workers working longer. We need more long-term incentives or traditional pension programs that add tenure components. I think flexible arrangements for people to keep my generation, particularly the Gen Xers, those that I believe we actually built the computer, we took it apart, had fun putting it back together. We need to find a way to keep the 50, 60-year-olds engaged, give them more flexibility, but encourage them to live longer. You want to know why? Because there aren't enough millennials right now that have had that wealth of experience. There's a gap. So we need to have something that's going to keep the workers that are older working longer. We're going to need to add some flexibility. I do think an idea that I had was make sure you have an opportunity for people to update their CVs in-house. Keep them logged in the systems with accurate skill-based assessments, and not just performance. I think we got to evolve back to skill so that we could go out and purchase that skill on demand if they are, say, semi-retired. Hey, I saw that you're really good with project management. We have a key project. We need you to come back. Can you afford 4 months all in? I think that would be attractive. So therefore, I think getting their CVs before they think about retiring and then brokering those and gone are the days, folks. Don't have that block of no rehire policies. I do think that those are gone if they aren't already. Talk to your HR leads and make sure that you have a policy that encourages and actually maybe incentivizes rehire, especially if they were a good contributor. I'd keep that as a nurturing pool of talent leads for you. And then, of course, with the digital access, we need to make sure that we optimize our technology and data. I'd say that data, my last article was centered on the lack of good data governance. I think that's something critical. Okay, so moving on, some things that I saw in the Department of Labor, as well as in the CHRO magazines, unions are on the rise. We are seeing a surge now. And if you go on the Department of Labor website, you'll see that they're actually advertising, because it's Pay Equity Month for women, they're actually stating very clearly that there is an advantage. The unions can help women close the gap. The data shows that women on a union behind her make 22% more on average than a woman fending for herself. It's right there on the website. So they're encouraging in the government, and it's not surprising. Biden started the push. If you recall, that he touted that he was pro-union for years. So on November 3rd, the NLRB actually proposed, and they're deploying the Fair Choice and Employee Voice rule, which is aimed at expanding worker rights and eliminating barriers to organization. I'd say that the Red Cup Day, if anybody saw that back in November, where Starbucks had, because of the union, they actually wanted the world to see all the union employees. So all the union Starbucks employees were carrying around red cups and promoting them and handing them out. Red Cup used to be for Christmas. Now it's representing the union. Also, they say that a recent Gallup poll found that 71% of Americans approve of labor unions. That's the highest since 1965. And I trust Gallup. So I do think there's some things that are also around there socially. I think there's this newfound hardship associated with work. I think that you're hearing and feeling everybody's overwhelmed and overworked and underpaid, and overeducated workers are not getting what they're due. And then you heard about the minimum wage. So there's a lot of activism out there socially trying to promote the union activity. So I'd say it's definitely there. We're seeing a lot more of it right now. So one thing as a remedy to take away is review your job structures. Do they offer ramp up promotional opportunities that align with skill-based growth? Check the timing of your promotions. How often do you see, are they actually being tracked? Are you measuring the frequency? Are you seeing a ramp up on those lower wage earners to get competitively placed faster? So that's things, those are things that you should be looking at. And then, I did take a look from leading from the CHRO over to other websites. We all know it. Tax season is here. They just added Saturday hours. I guess that helps with the 87,000 employees that they are adding more time, but that also means audits. So I'd say you're individually as workers, make sure you save your receipts. But if business owners out there, make sure you're using good technology to track your expenses. And then I did check on the SEC, nothing really there, just more of a tidbit. I didn't know if this was actually true, but they say it. They said, did you know that a third of working age African American adults are starting or running a new business? I thought it was interesting. I know it's Black History Month, but I thought that was a pretty significant number. Maybe that goes along with the gig economy that we're hearing again. Not so much. I saw an article or two about that this time. But that's pretty amazing. I have to say, as a business owner, that's a significant number for me, and I welcome everybody to the challenge. It's a good gig if you really put your nose and your effort behind it. But I welcome to consult with anybody if they're listening. Give me a call. So design, okay, my weird title of the month, I saw it. Everybody pay attention. Chief TikTok Officer. What is that? Okay, I don't think I need to say it every time, but I'm now coining this weird title of the month. I'm guessing this is more for the Generation Alpha, but I also thought we were not supposed to be on TikTok, so I'm really confused. So there you go. And then I guess things to think about with the Gen Alpha. I do think that there's not just the dashboards and the modeling, but I think we also want to start modeling family events. Help them see, hey, if you're not, when you have these respective life events, here's what you can see what happened with your benefits and your take-home pay. I think that we do statements, but we don't help people move into predictable. What can I do to anticipate a life event? We often say, are you married, are you not married? And we give them the benefit statement or tax statement. I think it's time that we evolve those into much more dynamic modeling. So something that's fun for me for February and to March, you'll start seeing proxy season. So we might next month highlight a proxy statement between two main competitors. That's something we've done in the past. I'd say I'm also seeing communications and trainings. There was an article in CHRO about making sure that employees are educated and how HR is not equipped to talk about it, compensation. We have a training program for that. So if anybody, I understand it's sensitive. I understand it's hard to grasp all the inputs. But once you really see how simple it is to filter and absorb what is relevant to your world and remove the noise of, I had a client that Netflix is paying this, Netflix is paying that, and they, one, were not in the movie business. Two, they were definitely, that would be an aspirational target, that going from Netflix in the billions, they were only at a couple million. But they were feeling that they wanted to have that Netflix leadership, Netflix skill set, I guess. But I think when they had those conversations with their employees, they said, yes, we do watch what happens at Netflix, but we are also offering in this world, and here's what you receive from us and what we're able to give you. And hopefully the package is, and the ability to work into a small business is sometimes even attractive. Some people like to be part of something that they could touch and feel and see their impact. If somebody's working for a large business, they may not be able to. So that's actually, as a small business, one of my benefits I believe I offer. And so that's about it. And funny enough, from last month, we were all worried about transparency. I have to tell you, I'm not hearing that much, not reading that much right now in the articles. I think people were gearing up for it. It came out, and now they're moderately handling it. I think it's something that we all need to aspire to, but I think there's been some tapping on the brake a bit. Maybe the noise has calmed down. So, but that's what I have for you today. So to be or not to be, I'm not sure if recession, maybe we'll finally learn next month that we have one. But I hope not, and I wish you all the best. If you have any questions or want to reach out to our team, always feel welcome. We are here to deliver.